monitor and watch and see and witness what's going to happen to you. The time's clicking. Paul Orndorff, big bloodbath. Ha! New York, New York, New York. They haven't seen a bloodbath in years. And the two greatest athletes are coming. New York, bloodbath, anything, you name it, Paul, it's going to happen.
Get set for the match of the year as Paul Orndorff and Steve Williams shake up the Big Apple here on the UWF Fury Hour next.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the UWF Fury Cast. I'm Gene Jackson, getting ready to take you through another hour from the wild, weird, and wonderful world of Herb Abrams UWF Fury Hour. And speaking of Herb, let's hear from him what's on tap this week.
What a card, Craig and Bruno. The popular Steve the Wild Thing Ray gets the show underway. The villainous Russian bear, Ivan Koloff, meets up with crowd favorite David Sammartino. One of tonight's great matchups, B. Brian Blair, with Lou Albano and Honey in his corner, meet the slick Cowboy Bob Orton and his infamous mentor, John Tolos. The UWF debut of the man with the tan, Sonny Beach. And finally, the match we've been waiting for months. Dr. Death, Steve Williams, in a revenge match against Paul, Mr. Wonderful Orndorff. Lou Albano bellies up with another Captain Lou's Corner. And we'll answer another fan's letter on Ask the Wrestlers.
There you have it, folks. Tonight's episode should be a big one. It's all about payback, as we've got two huge grudge matches going down tonight. And surely, at least one of them will give us a satisfying ending. Don't you think? Surely. Plus the debut of the man with the tan, as Herbie calls him, Sonny Beach. Ivan Koloff's going to be here. Wild Thing Steve Ray, Louie Spicoli. So let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it. So we start out with some hype for the bloodbath in New York and the promise of the huge grudge match between Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff taking on his nemesis, Dr. Death, Steve Williams. Craig DeGeorge and Bruno Sammartino are hosting here once again. They're setting up the card for the night, and they mention that, Honey will be at ringside, and they even slip up and call her Annie one time. Herb Abrams chimes in to lay out everything, just like we just heard, and we go right to the ring for the very first match. Steve, the Wild Thing Ray, taking on Cutie Pie, Louie Spicoli. So I've got high hopes for this one. These guys have been... in spite of everything that goes on around them, having some pretty decent matches here in the UWF, and they seem to have the most potential. So Wild Thing strolls out grinning to the tune of Wild Thing, which seems to work. And the ladies here at the Penta Hotel in New York seem to like him, which pisses off Cutie Pie pretty bad. And why wouldn't it? If you're going to have the nerve to call yourself Cutie Pie, then surely you're expecting to attract the ladies, not Steve Ray. Well, Spicoli actually lands some early offense. He hits a nasty clothesline on Ray, nearly steals one right out of the gate, but he makes the rookie mistake of turning to jaw with the fans, and that's when Steve Ray turns things around. He hangs Spicoli up and then sprints from corner to corner and crushes him with a flying shot. Gets the 3 count, and Cutie Pie has to eat humble pie this week as Wild Thing Steve Ray wins it in the opener. It was a great opening match, And Steve Ray, I don't know. I really think that Herb needs to get behind him. This could be his homegrown talent instead of everybody just being, ex WWF and WCW stars. This would be somebody that people only know for the UWF. But we'll just have to see how that unfolds. Next up, we got a backstage promo from David Sammartino. And David keeps it short, no nonsense. He's not the biggest guy, but he says he's the most fit and very dangerous if provoked. Let's hear exactly what the son of the legendary Bruno Sammartino has to say about his upcoming match with, as Herbie would say, Ivan Koloff.
About a man in our profession that has credentials and you have to spit the name of Ivan Koloff. Here's a man who wrestling historians will always refer to as the only man ever to defeat Bruno Sammartino, and a man who filled emergency rooms up all over the country. Well, Ivan Koloff, you came to the UWF for a challenge, and that's exactly what you're going to get, because David Sammartino may not be the biggest man in professional wrestling, but I guarantee you I'm the most fit and I'm the most dangerous if provoked.
There you have it. David Sammartino says he's the most fit and most dangerous if provoked. He certainly has the cadence of his father in these promos, I notice. Let's see what he looks like in the ring. He goes out there to take on former WWF champion Ivan Koloff, who was a nemesis of his father, who once defeated his father for the WWF World Heavyweight Championship. Koloff comes in, teasing that chain, and Bruno is on commentary trying not to gush over his son any more than he usually does. But Koloff drop toe holds David, then goes into a chin lock, and they do a lot of wrestling in this one, which we haven't seen a whole lot of here in the UWF thus far. So it's kind of, some back and forth, some chain wrestling, different things. Finally, Koloff suplexes David. They end up out on the floor. They do a little bit of fighting on the floor. And Koloff suplexes David back in the ring right at the 9 count. But he doesn't get back in the ring quick enough, so he gets counted out. And David Sammartino gets the win over former champion Ivan Koloff by countout. Not pretty, but it's an effective finish. And, it gets David a win, but, Koloff doesn't take a pin. So, I don't know. I mean, ordinarily I would say this is a really good finish for this match, but I mean, I don't know. You use so many, quote, cop-out finishes week in, week out here in the UWF. It's like, all right, well, David got a win, but apparently no one of note is ever going to pin someone else. Unless it's, cheating, using a chain and things like Ivan's been doing. So, I don't know. Good match. It would have been a good finish, but when you figure in all the other, countouts and DQs and different things we've seen, still kind of a blah finish.
We'll return after these messages.
Relive the glory days of Memphis wrestling with the Retro Wrestling Review USWA podcast. Each week, we go back in time to review USWA Championship Wrestling from the 1990s, episode by episode. Join us for watch-alongs, behind-the-scenes stories, and exclusive interviews with people who were there and lived it. Whether you grew up watching it or you're discovering it for the first time, this podcast is your ringside seat to Memphis wrestling history. It's all a part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Listen now at USWApodcast.com.
Hey guys, Ray Russell here, curator of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, inviting you guys to listen to many of the programs here as part of the WrestleCopia brand, including, but not limited to, the Wrestling Memory Grenade, currently covering the 1988 and the WWF project. You can also listen to the Regional Wrestling Podcast, where we talk the territories. You can also listen to the Wrestling Stoop with the legend himself, Bob Roop. But that's not all. You can also check out the Puro Wrestling Academy with the professor of Puroresu, Mr. Dan Ginnity. Dan and I go back in time and cover the history of Japanese professional wrestling in the English language. And you can listen to all of those shows and more, all part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, located over at WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, and anywhere your podcast streaming needs are met. So if you're looking to support that next up-and-coming podcast brand, please consider making it WrestleCopia.
Tired of the same boring wrestling podcast? Need something with attitude, chaos, and maybe just a little cussing? That's STSpod.club, and we got it all covered. We've got wrestling weirdness with WTF News Desk, 5-minute time limit, and the Southern Fried Brain of me, BT, steering the whole ship. We also have rolling into Memphis every week about the current Memphis wrestling. Interviews, hot takes, and wrestling outrageousness so wild it might get you banned in 12 states. That's right, it's SDSpod.club, or search all podcast catchers for Shooting the Shiznit, where wrestling podcasts grow chest hair. Not sure what that meant. Love my mama.
Next up, they plugged the return on February the 15th for Rumble in the Big Apple 2. So we want to make sure we don't miss that. The next match is the debut of Sonny Beach, the man that Herbie refers to as the man with the tan. He's going to be taking on Mike Williams. Sonny Beach comes down. He's got the surfboard. He's dressed in a neon wetsuit. He's coming out to the Beach Boys song, Surfing USA. So you would have to literally be blind and deaf to not see what we got going on here with this gimmick. He is definitely a beach guy. He's put it right in his name. And, just at first sight, you think, well, him and Steve Ray might hit it off. Well, keep that in mind. You may be seeing that tag team come together sooner than you think. Mike Williams is out of New Orleans. Don't know much about him. But, he put on a pretty good match with Sonny Beach here. But Sonny Beach had a good match here in his debut. Looks strong. Gets a decisive win here. And the announcers even call it a sunny day for him, which would mean something very different in the WWF a few years later. But nonetheless, Sonny Beach gets the win in his debut. His character is loud. His gear is even louder. Finish looked good on TV. So let's see how he does down the road here when he gets a little bit tougher opponent than Mike Williams. No offense to Mike Williams, of course. Then we get a promo from Orton and Tolos, followed by Captain Lou's Corner. And since they're kind of going back and forth here, let's just hear those two things together, back to back, shall we? Here we go.
Just a few short minutes away, B. Brian Blair, and you got to step in the ring against the toughest man you've ever faced in your life. And this might be the India, boy. This might be the India. You might as well go ahead and kiss sweet honey goodbye.
You're right there, man. That tarantula. And albino and all those other guys. Let me tell you something, man. Here's our motto. A coin. And this is what we think. Heads, we win. Tails, you lose.
Yes, wrestling fans. It's the big old fat man, Captain Lou Albano, back again this week at the Captain's Corner with two very personal, close friends of mine, B. Brian Blair and Honeybee. Honeybee, what are you doing here, and what is your game plan?
Well, Lou, I'm here strictly as an observer to watch Brian's back, but you know what you get when you grab a bee by the tail.
Oh, yeah, you get stung, that's right. And you know something, Cowboy Bob Orton Jr., I don't know where you get off on calling yourself the Cowboy, because nobody around here has ever seen you on a horse. And you know something, you golden geek John Tolos, you get off on running your trap a lot. And you know what happened? Just like Honey said, you're going to stick your hand in the hornet's nest one too many times. You know that, Captain?
In other words, John Tolos and Orton, the party's over, baby. You had the audacity, the unmitigated gall to go out and slap this beautiful young lady. Well, this is the equalizer, brother. This is the man that can do it all. And John Tolos, I personally will vouch you to keep an eye on you. I may not be able to beat any professional wrestler today, but let me tell you something. You're a manager, and I'm an announcer, and I'll be there to always keep an eye on you. And B. Brian Blair will handle that big half-wit Bob Orton. Go ahead, brother.
You know something, Captain Lou? It made me sick a couple of weeks ago when I saw John Tolos come out here and call you a has-been. Because as far as I'm concerned, you're the greatest wrestling manager that has ever lived. In my mind, I've seen them all, Captain Lou, and I have never seen anybody coach anybody as well as you've coached people to success.
Well, thank you. I thank you. Like I said, I might be old, but let me tell you, it's like fine wine, baby. As I get old, I turn around, I don't mold, but I get better. So John Tolos, look out. These are the people that can do it all. We're ready. They're ready. You're ready. Ready, Teddy. Go ahead, tell them, B. Brian.
Oh, yeah, I'll just be there, Captain. Woo!
Dear God. Honey asks the question, do you know what happens when you grab a bee by the tail? Well, I didn't know bees had a tail. A lot going on there. Orton and Tolos said they want to flip a coin, and it's going to be heads they win, tails you lose. Of course, Captain Lou's just all over the place, as always. One thing I find distracting in these B. Brian promos now, for any of you people who are familiar with present-day Memphis wrestling, I feel like Brian Blair sounds a lot like Dustin Starr. So now every time I hear Brian Blair talking, I picture Dustin Starr saying it, which is weird. But anyway, another odd Captain Lou's Corner, I guess, to build up to the match we're about to see right now. It's the grudge match. B. Brian Blair with Captain Lou and Honey at ringside taking on Cowboy Bob Orton with John Tolos. This feud's been simmering since November, and Honey's packing that cattle prod, I think they call the stinger, which makes sense with the B. Brian gimmick. So that's their equalizer, which, Tolos is already down 2-1 out there, and now she's got a cattle prod, so it's not looking good for Mr. Tolos. He may have to start doing those Midnight Express limo commercials full time if this doesn't go well for him. But anyway, a pretty good wrestling match to start. Orton, he's as crafty as ever. And then we start getting the outside people involved. Tolos cheap shots Blair at one point. And Honey stalks him with the cattle prod. Captain Lou tries to stalk Tolos. Referee Jesse Henderson ends up taking a bump. Tolos swings a shoe. And at one point, Orton looks sure he's got something taped up in his hand. And then in all this mess, the ref only sees Blair with the foreign object, who takes it away from Orton, calls for the bell. Your winner by disqualification, Cowboy Bob Orton. The crowd fucking hates it. There's been too much of this. Unless it's a job match, you do not see a clean finish in UWF to save your life. I mean, again, if we hadn't seen this for the prior 15 episodes, maybe we could forgive it here. But it's just too much. So, again, this feels like another match without a satisfying outcome. Just a lot of bullshit for the sake of bullshit. So coming up next, our big, huge grudge match between Dr. Death and Mr. Wonderful. Let's all cross our fingers and hope that we get some kind of satisfying finish here. But it's doubtful. But before we go to the ring for this super grudge match, let's hear one more time Dr. Death and Mr. Wonderful try to sell us on how bad they hate each other and just how bad they're going to beat the living hell out of each other when they get in the ring. Check this out.
Get set for the match of the year between Dr. Death and Mr. Wonderful.
The clock's ticking. Time to bout up. Paul Orndorff, it's like me walking down the beach. You're going to be out there playing with the sand castles, and I'm going to bury you and start kicking sand in your face.
Well, you've got my attention. You had it a long time ago, and you wanted to break every rule there was to get it. Well, let me tell you something. I can break rules better than the best of them, my friend. I'm the one that made up the name Rule Breaker. I know how to use chairs. I know how to use tables. I know how to use the cane from a little old lady out there. I can do it all in the ring. So when you and I step in the ring, don't expect no nice guy, and don't expect me to make any more mistakes.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, the podcast that's based on the old school, but can still help you find the good stuff from today. Jimmy Street and the Plastic Sheik, Jared, are the undisputed tag team champions of the wrestling podcast world. From thought-provoking topics to superstar interviews to action figure expertise. This team does it all. and all they ask is, give me back my pro wrestling. Every other Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hey, it's Bob Smith, and guess what? The Outdated Wrestling Hour is now part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. But hey, no fear, you're still going to hear the unique guests, comedy, music, authors, journalists, funny people. Who knows who's going to end up on the Outdated Wrestling Hour? Remember, it's all new and all old. So check it out in the WrestleCopia Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcasts. Listen if you know what's good for you.
This is Wrestling Nostalgia, the podcast that dives into wrestling history. Hey, wrestling fans, I'm Dave Dynasty, and if you enjoy podcasts that are knowledgeable and history-driven, then Wrestling Nostalgia is for you. With great guests and fun interviews, there are over 200 episodes in our archives. We chat with several first-time guests and often cover topics not discussed on other podcasts. Look up Wrestling Nostalgia on your favorite podcast platform and visit all of our links at linktree/wrestlepod. That is linktr.ee/RASSLEPOD. And remember, wherever you go, whatever you do, be good, be safe, and keep on growing.
All right, the time for talking is done. Let's go to the ring for our main event. This huge grudge match has been building for weeks, and I hope that finally we're going to get a satisfying ending to a main event. They promised us a fight, and they delivered. They go at it. Orndorff jumps Doc. They brawl to the floor. And here's what's crazy is I gather Orndorff's supposed to be the babyface, and Williams is supposed to be the heel. Or it's how it's been presented at times. But at other times, and especially in this match, Orndorff comes off like more of the heel. They go out, they fight on the floor. Orndorff rams Williams' head into the ring post, and then he gets a hold of an umbrella, cracks, Williams across the head with that. Doc's busted open pretty badly. There's blood on the canvas. There's blood on the ring post. There's probably blood on everybody in the first three rows. But Williams wheels himself back, headbutts, his suplexes. Both guys are bleeding eventually and swinging on each other. This is every bit of the wild brawl they promise. So it's looking good, folks. I don't know who's going to come out ahead, but they are really laying it on the line here. I think we're finally going to see somebody come out of this thing as a winner, unless, oh no, I can't bring myself to say this. Let's let you hear Herb Abrams tell us what the finish of our huge grudge main event is.
Craig and Bruno, we run out of time on the Fury Hour. We'll have the conclusion of this titanic struggle in 2 weeks. UWF, the Universal Wrestling Federation, the pinnacle in sports programming.
Oh my God. So after weeks of fans complaining, dirt sheet writers complaining, everybody who sees UWF complaining about all the countouts and disqualifications and non-finishes, they build up this huge match, and Herbie gives us the biggest fuck you yet by not giving us any conclusion. This time, okay, he's like, if you don't like countouts, if you don't like disqualifications, if you don't like time limit draws, then here you go. We'll just end the fucking show. Are you kidding me right now? This huge angle you've built for weeks and weeks, and now you don't just tell us we got to wait till next week to see what happens. You tell us we got to wait for 2 more fucking weeks? Do you think we're really still going to give a shit in 2 weeks? What the fuck? Next, they plug the power line, the 1-900 hotline, which maybe you could call and pay however much per minute, and just maybe, they might tell you the finish of this match so you don't have to wait 2 minutes, or 2 weeks. If they was smart, that's how they would have plugged the hotline. Like, hey, if you don't have to sit around like a jackoff for 2 weeks waiting to find out who wins, call this hotline right now and we'll tell you. But nope. It's just a generic, bullshit hotline commercial where they're going to, tell you some made up quote unquote news or some shit. So my final thoughts, The opener was a solid TV opener. Steve Ray and Louie Spicoli are two guys that Herb should have invested more time into and tried to make them his homegrown stars. That's what he should have done. Sammartino and Koloff. It was a smart finish to protect both of them, give David some momentum, but it doesn't hurt Koloff. But again, you've done so much of that, it really doesn't mean shit. Sunny Beach. Eye-catching debut. Great finisher. Let's see who he gets to tie up with finally and see whether they go to a count out, a disqualification, or a time limit draw. Blair and Orton. Shenanigans. I guess it keeps the feud hot. If that's the intention, but not really, because we have to wonder at this point, are we ever going to get a satisfying conclusion to anything in the UWF? It sure as hell doesn't look like it, because in the following match, the main event, the biggest angle we have pushed in the UWF outside of Colonel DeBeers versus a referee, Paul Mr. Wonderful Orndorff versus Steve Dr. Death Williams. It was violent. It was messy. It was exactly what they sold us. Only at the end, they give us this huge gut punch. You put two big-time matches on the show, and you don't give us a winner, a conclusive winner in either fucking one of them. This shit with all the non-finishes in the main event matches hurts the UWF more than they ever realized. I truly believe that's why a lot of people started tuning out. I mean, you sit through a bunch of awful squash matches, and then when you finally see two alleged stars face off, you know there's not going to be any kind of satisfying ending, so who gives a shit, right? So there you have it. Episode 16 of the Fury Hour. Umbrellas, shoes, brass knucks, and a main event you'll have to chase down in 2 weeks if you still give a shit by then. If you dug this recap, hit subscribe, drop me a rating, tell a friend about this awful UWF wrestling from the early 90s that we're having fun with all the way here in 2025. And remember, as always, I'm Gene Jackson, and I watch this shit so you don't have to. See you around for the next UWF Furycast. And make sure you join us in 2 weeks as we sit on pins and needles waiting to see who won between Paul Orndorff and Steve Williams. And so help me God, if we wait 2 weeks to find out it was a fucking double count out or disqualification, I don't even want to say what I might do. See you next time, folks. Thanks.
Listen up, you bunch of slack-jawed flea market freeloaders. If you think you know Memphis wrestling, you don't know nothing till you've heard the Retro Wrestling Review podcast, brother. Every week they're talking the real stuff. Lawler, Jarrett, PG-13, yeah, and even my Moondogs. Watch along, stories from the road, interviews with folks who are in the thick of it, brother. The blood, the beer, and the bail money. It's all on the Wrestlecopia Podcast Network. Go to uswapodcast.com or I'll come down there and I'll slap the taste out of your mouth.
Tonight the Moondogs are looking for trouble, and you can hear it in their scream. So stay out of this swamp, 'cause the full moon is shining big and bright, and you might run into a Moondog.